Rafi, you were just commenting about the fact that given we had low oil prices for so long, the big majors didn't invest in their infrastructure, didn't put the capital to work. That, again, is the supply side. But there's a really important demand side of the equation that you say doesn't actually get calculated. And again, we're going to go back to the developing nations and the poverty. Walk us through what isn't being calculated and therefore where you think oil prices can really go.
Yeah, touched on it a few times there, but what's important for people to understand is, number one, the population of the world keeps growing and at an accelerated pace in the developing world. And that's where we're still trying to move people out of poverty and into the middle class, if you will. It takes an enormous amount of energy to move people out of poverty. And then what is really not understood yet is it amplifies our demand for oil then, because now let's say in the next decade or 15 years, we move 1 billion people out of poverty. That's 1 billion people now that have even more appetite for energy, because in poverty, you don't use energy as much. But when you're out of poverty, now you want central heating and you want plumbing and you want a vehicle and you want to build a house and you want healthcare, accelerated amount of healthcare. And all of these things, we have not been able to offer people an alternative other than oil to achieve those things. You want to get rid of oil, you need to find a good alternative. I've used that example of Kodak film before with you, where why does Kodak film not exist anymore? Because we seamlessly got rid of it through a very effective alternative, digital cameras.
So
then we have not attacked oil the same way.
So let me ask you this. Do you think that there will be an alternative? Because obviously the people who are against oil do believe that the renewables will suffice that. But then you take a look at what's going on in the UK and the EU. How is it that they arrived at an energy crisis?
Yeah, until they're too expensive, they're hard to store, and they can't be transported, and they're inconsistent. So it's a variable energy source. It's not an alternative and it's not a renewable. It's a variable energy source. And until we can figure out and we're spending time and money investing in ways to store some of that power ourselves too. We see technologies that are trying to do that. Even that is not going to have remotely the impact. People need to accept hydrocarbons will be part of our lives for a long time to come. And we have to marry the two together. But it's just, in fact, we should be spending a lot more time and money on cleaning up the emissions of hydrocarbons instead of trying to get rid of them, because it's just an unrealistic expectation to think we can just, be without hydrocarbons. In this energy cycle and the next, you will not see any material impact of alternative energy, I think.
So where does that leave you in terms of looking at the energy sector right now and where you want to be weighted, whether it's oil or gas even?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually, Catherine. You have to treat both commodities separately and you have to invest in them separately. We, as you know, invest in the industry with we look at it like 9 subsectors, the entire energy industry. And they all trade off against each other at different times. We were aggressively pursuing the gas market in the spring of last year after COVID hit. And only until recently did we actually back into this excitement and this carelessness around the price of gas, did we start to sell that position down. And to your point earlier, now we're going to see probably this energy crisis get to the point where the anti-movement against North American oil production might reverse. And we might see people saying, hey, we want to exploit our own energy. And you might see where we will start to turn around and expand our capital programs and try to expand the production back in North America, maybe even in this cycle. I will tell you, if we do expand our capital programs, there is no services capable of doing that yet. So we've taken that gas position down and we've moved aggressively into the energy service sector across the board, primarily in the pumpers and the frackers, but across the board, really, you could do it. We see just the sector's been in Canada certainly has been left to die for 5-6 years. So there's just not the infrastructure capable. So any amount of spending by the producers means you're going to see increased day rates in the service sector, and you'll benefit from that greatly. So you stick with your oil positions, stay a little lighter on your gas right now, because gas prices are starting to build in a robust winter weather type of scenario.
Right.
So there's risk there. So we backed off that position a bit. And then we elevated our energy services right now. That's very much a typical traditional energy life cycle.
Got it. We're going to pick it up right after the break.